Hello, once again. I am Doc Rodden, and this is Horror News Radio, your official Gruesome Magazine podcast. Back with me again this week are the scariest, goriest, bloodiest co-hosts on the net. And tonight we're reviewing a film called Sator, Sator. It's going to be fun. All right, joining me tonight is award-winning filmmaker Christopher G. Moore. How you doing, Christopher?
I'm doing good. I'm a little bit upset because I heard this was a Cabin in the Woods movie, and there's no ash. How can you have a Cabin in the Woods movie without ash?
No ash. No, it's ash-free.
Yes.
I don't know where that goes, but there it is, sitting there right in front of you. All right, also
no
joining
ashes
us
were
tonight,
harmed.
No ashes were harmed. Also joining us tonight is podcasting rockstar and international cosplay queen, Vanessa Thompson. How you doing, Vanessa?
Good. Anywhere I go, it's never ash-free.
Well, it is that time of year where you get a little bit ashy, if you know what I mean.
See you next Wednesday. But what we're going to do is we're going to give our first impressions of the film, and then we're going to talk about the film. We might do minor spoilers. We're going to try not to. And then we're going to wrap things up with our final thoughts, our score 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. All right, what film are we talking about? We are talking about Sator, which you can see looks like a nice witchy kind of film. It's available for purchase or rent beginning February 9th, 2021. It's written and directed by Jordan Graham. The cast includes Michael Daniel, Rachel Johnson, Aurora Lowe, Gabriel Nicholson, June Peterson, and Wendy Taylor. The tagline is, "After you've suffered, he will find you." And the synopsis goes along like this. Secluded in a desolate forest, home to little more than the decaying remnants of the past, a broken family is further torn apart by a mysterious death. Adam, guided by a persuasive sense of dread, hunts for answers only to learn that they are not alone. An insidious presence by the name of Sator has been observing his family, subtly influencing all of them for years in an attempt to claim them. Yes, that's actually a very thorough synopsis.
Yes.
I
think I understand it better now.
Yes. All right. All right. So let's do this. Let's do our first impressions. And Vanessa, you are up first.
Me first. So I was super excited when we did our gruesome guides for this, and it came up, and I really liked the costuming that I saw. Was this a cult, or is it a Wendigo character that we're seeing? I still don't know. The answer to that is I still don't know. There were some interesting topics in this movie, but I think it was more of me playing into that, especially when you get into the topics of like mental health and dementia. But I'm super bummed because I don't know what this movie is about. I don't know what I was supposed to take from it, and I just feel conflicted about it. And you're right, that synopsis gave me more about the movie than I got from the movie itself, watching the whole thing. So it looked great, but I didn't get it.
Didn't get it. Oh my, this is going to be a fun discussion, I think. Christopher G. Moore, what was your first impression of Sator?
The cinematography I think is gorgeous. There's some really nicely framed scenes. And I think that's probably the biggest strength of this film. But you just mentioned the tagline, and I kind of suffered throughout the whole film.
They're going to come find you.
Did he come for you?
Yeah, I'm waiting for somebody to break in my door now with like little jawbones as fingernails.
That was cool.
Creature. That was actually the design. That design was kind of cool. But the storytelling is off. I mean, I feel like I was watching the most boring parts of people when they go deer hunting. Because that's mainly what you're doing. You're seeing him replacing his little cameras and looking at him, nothing's on.
Quietly, too quiet.
Yeah, and then his brother who shows up is talking like Ted Levine from Silence of the Lambs. He's talking very like mumbling. So I couldn't understand half of what the actor was saying in that character. And then there's a whole thing where they keep going back. They keep flashing back or cutting to the home of his mom. And then they do this sort of 4-3 old television framing, and they shoot it differently, and it's like this whole artsy thing, and it didn't work. It just felt it felt artsy for artsy's sake, and it didn't help forward the story, and I didn't really. And there's not a lot of dialogue. And some of the dialogue just feels like it's maybe improvised or something. I feel like the mom felt like a real person. So I kept wondering, is this just some crazy person they
The
met?
grandma, you
Yeah.
mean? Yeah.
Yeah, the grandma I thought felt realistic. If she's an actress, she's a good actress because it
Yeah.
felt very natural, her delivery. I kind of looked forward to those parts because she seemed very natural in the things she was saying, but
Yeah, authentic. Yeah, definitely.
very authentic. But it just, yeah, something is, I mean, you know, like I said, the cinematography is there, but it,
The atmosphere is there.
yeah. But see, a museum could be filled full of paintings, but it doesn't really tell you a story why those paintings connect. And this is how this film felt. It was all this nice stuff, but you didn't really get anything from it. There's me and my food analogies, but when you eat food, you want to get nutrients from it, and there was no story nutrients in this. It was actually kind of boring in parts that you were kind of looking forward to, like the scary parts, which there are a few scary parts. There's like two places that made me jump. And there's some that feels a little bit like Blair Witch a little bit, when he's going out with the flashlight and stuff. But yeah, it's kind of weird. I think my comparison is it's like if you took Hereditary and it made love to David Lynch, and you would get this film, but not in a good way. It would be the ugly baby from those two boinking in a Motel 8.
Oh, there's an ugly baby.
But yeah, I mean, and I think for me, it's kind of disappointing because some of the shots in this are so well framed, that it seems kind of wasted if you don't really care about the story or the characters, or you don't know what the hell's going on. So I mean, I think it's just it's kind of confusing, which is kind of sad because it looks pretty, but there's really nothing to it.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I was looking forward to this. We did the Gruesome Guides. Hint: go look for the Gruesome Guides the first of every month. And the trailer for this was very promising. We'd heard a little bit about this. It had that the witch vibe to it too as well. They're out in the woods and something's out there, and it just had it felt like it had the right elements. But unfortunately, the film doesn't gel. It doesn't. What's the saying about some of its parts? It doesn't. There are really great elements of this. I think the feeling of dread that they talked about in the synopsis is there. You feel the dread in this movie from the get-go, right? You just feel almost beaten up by it. It's so thick, which is an accomplishment. And the cinematography, like you said, is great. Some of the creativity that go into the Sator characters is very, very, very chilling and mysterious, and it's creature-ish, but you can see that it's somebody kind of making it, and it felt authentic in that respect. It didn't feel manufactured. But the problem is the dialogue and the story and the message. To me, I've been struggling with it. Like, what happened here? Is there a background story that, if you're familiar with, this means a lot more? Is it some kind of like local color that you don't get, or is it that the filmmakers had a lot of story that is there, but it's only there for their from their perspective because they know it, they know the background, they know what goes into it. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't know if enough was communicated through the pictures and the lack of dialogue to inform me what I need to put together. I'm torn. Is it a story about dementia? Is it a story about paranoia? Is it a story about these actual Sator characters, and I can come up with my own, my own ending with it. But that's not very. It's not very satisfying, right? It's not very satisfying to do that much work. I love not being hammered and told everything, but I also don't want to be left completely in the dark. And I feel like this leans a lot more toward that. And it's a shame because there's a lot going on here that's worth watching. But man, take some caffeine because it is a challenge to stay lucid during this.
Mhm.
It is very slow paced and very almost monotonously so, right? It's almost like
Yeah.
like trying to walk through 4 inches of mud kind of thing.
It does feel like that a little bit, and there's not enough dialogue to support that. And I think Jeff would call this a slow burn.
Oh, it's definitely a slow burn, yeah.
But and some of the scenes were so dark. So when you take a lack of dialogue, a lack of uniform direction, and then a lack of really being able to take in everything that's going on, it makes it difficult to enjoy. I even had trouble keeping up with the cast. Who was who and how are they related, and is this somebody's wife or is it a mom, or where were they in an insane asylum? Yeah, like I just I couldn't really follow, and I kept trying to piece it into it being maybe a dementia, an Alzheimer's, a PTSD, paranoia thing. Like, is that what they're trying to represent? But then you go back to the synopsis and it tells us that it's an actual creature, demon, woodland monster that's doing this. And I almost dropped a spoiler. Don't want to do that just yet, but it's just like, the pieces and the parts are there. It's maybe it just wasn't assembled correctly,
Something's missing.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because it's like I feel like this is a scenario where all the white people look alike type thing. Because there was one part where they do flashbacks, and I thought the one guy was him.
Yeah,
and I was like, no, that's the other guy.
Yeah,
and then I was like, oh man, now I'm confused, and then like. There's like certain things that you normally throw in there as information. Like there's a picture book that they look in. You're like, okay, am I supposed to get something?
What does this mean? Yeah.
It doesn't really mean anything other than this is his family. And then there's this one creepy mom. But yeah, it's this is definitely one of those things where I feel like, sometimes we get on movies about being too expositional, but there's no exposition. There's barely any dialogue in scenes. You have the main character who doesn't really say anything. He has the most limited dialogue. And then when there are dialogue, it's just like that one. I think the most dialogue is the Ted Levine character talking to the grandma.
Yeah. Don't you remember me? I'm your grandson.
Puts the lotion on the skin. It's like I'm. and I feel like those parts of dialogue didn't really do anything. And then like, there's that he plays those audio tapes from, I guess, the grandma's reading, or I don't know if that's from the mom. I don't know. And then are we supposed to get something from that?
That was very Evil Dead-ish. I liked that, the way he used that. I wish it would have explained more, but I liked how it was kind of Evil Dead-ish to have the recordings playing while they're in the house doing whatever,
Well, yeah, but then it's like, am I supposed to pay attention to what she's saying? And so yeah, there's like these. I mean, I feel like this is like. I think this is even slower than a slow burn. This is like a turtle burn because it's like,
oh, poor turtle.
Or it's just a wheel stuck in mud burn to where it's like I feel like we're not going anywhere because I feel like the whole movie there's like repetition. It's just like him going out and checking the deer thing and then looking at the picture and maybe drinking a beer and because it's a cabin that doesn't have bottle cap openers. always have to hit him on some counter throughout the whole film.
I grew up like that, so I know
Yeah,
what
yeah.
that
Well,
is.
that's fine. I've redneck family that probably do that too, but I have redneck family that go hunting, and I mean, there's elements that there's like so many elements of some other films in here, and you can sort of see the influence. There's definitely some I don't know if he was influenced, but it feels very hereditary-ish in certain parts when you see creepy people in the background, or
the music too. Some of the sound, the score.
Yeah, and I kept thinking the Evil Dead vibe because they're in a cabin and there's like a deer head and there's
when they did the close up on
music.
that deer head, that was very.
And so I was kind of, we're gonna get to see some Deadites or something, and then
it also felt like a bit like The Ritual, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Some of the shots, some of the the way that the costumes are reminded me of that kind of subject matter.
But at the same time, it just shows how much better those other films are as opposed to those things that are riffing in this film, you know, and your cinematography can only take you so far to where it's like there needs to be a little bit more substance. More substance. I can't say that word. More substance than what's there, because there's not anything really to sort of like hold on to, you know. And I guess the whole time I feel like you know, I might as well be in the like, you know, the sort of the question emoji the whole film, because I'm like, I don't know what's happening. And then when the sort of like the shit hits the fan and things sort of, you kind of see where it's gonna go, but it's like, I feel like there should have been some explanation, you know, or at least when there's like, without giving anything away, there's like a moment where he sees things, and I felt like somebody should have talked, you know, so somebody should have said something. And because you can only get so far with all the tricks of cinematography before you have to say, we have to worry about the story and what's happening here. And there's nothing to guide you. You're lost in the woods like the Blair Witch people, and there's, you know, you kind of wish that you would turn your back and the witch would hit you. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I feel like for me, I just see the potential of what they could have done with this, but there's almost, I don't want to say pretentious, but there's like the artsy things that are thrown in here seem to be of no real value to the storytelling, other than just like, oh, look at this is so cool, I can do this, as opposed to, let's focus on telling the story, creating some kind of investment in what's happening, as well as understanding as to what's happening, so that I care more, as opposed to the whole time I'm like, I don't know what the heck's going on here, but it looks nice.
Yeah, I think you're touching on something, is that I don't think we really understand the conflict of our main character. You know, I mean, the best thing I can come up with is dementia. Like, he's beginning to suffer dementia like his family seemed to have. But it, like you said, the synopsis and the ending of the story don't necessarily support that, or at least not in my perception of it. But you don't understand the character's conflict or his story arc, right?
Yeah.
Things happen, and he does do something, but I don't understand what problems did he solve, or what problem did he lose to? I mean, you don't always have to succeed, right?
Yeah. You have to be able to relate in some way to someone, right?
And I think for me, the only character that really approached that concept was the grandma. The grandma was the best character in the movie. Just the way she acted and talked, and I got more out of her standing at the end of, you know, the kitchen looking and smiling at her granddaughter-in-law. I'm not really sure who that was.
I'm not sure. I didn't.
But you know what I mean?
I think at the same time, I'm trying to think, are you trying to tell me that maybe one of these characters is Sator or whatever?
Yeah.
You know,
when is this? Is this the 90s? Nobody's got a cell phone. He has a super old computer. Like, when is this supposed to be taking place? Or are they just really poor? Like, I don't know. That was hard for me.
Well, yeah, and I think there was only one moment where they tried to give some background information, and I think that's towards the end when his brother and the Is it a sister?
I don't know if it's his sister or his wife.
I don't even know their relationship, so I don't know if that's supposed to be his girlfriend or if that's a sister. I don't know. And
or if there's two. Sometimes I was wondering like how many
I don't know
are
who
there?
the other woman is either. And it feels. I think that's where the Lynchian things come into play for me, because it feels like these random things that I think don't throw hate at me, but I think Lynch is very overrated. I think he's an artist who throws all kinds of stuff out there so that people will like create their own meaning around it, but there's really no meaning behind it. I think it's like, oh, this is kind of cool if I throw this shit at the screen. And there's moments like this. There's like that one moment where the girl comes out and she's like a bird feed or something. It's like, sometimes I don't look up to the sky, and I'm like, wow, that's a random thought. And then everybody's talking this like monotone whispery level or mumbly level, to where it's like, this is like, there's this term called mumblecore movies, which well, and this is just like mumble.
Another problem with it, Christopher, is that because the two main male characters talk so much the same, right?
Yeah.
Or when the other one does
barely talks.
One barely talks. But I was there were times when I didn't know which one was which, especially when the flashbacks were up.
Yeah.
And then I also had problem with time because of the flashbacks. Like there's a couple times when the brother's in the cabin, and I'm not sure the order of those two scenes.
Or when the sister wife or whatever comes up, and I'm like, when is this, before, after? Like,
right. Because it is, and maybe that's the point, and I feel like I'm reaching for that, right? The point is that dementia you don't know, right? You don't
know.
Well, and I think because we're watching a screener, I was like, does this have closed captioning? Because I can understand.
Me too.
And I felt like after watching this movie, it makes me feel like Mads Mikkelsen has no accent now. I can totally understand Mads now after seeing this film, because I feel like everybody's on this weird mumbly quiet level, whisperish level, where I had to keep turning up the volume on my TV, and I was like, is it just me? Am I just getting old? My hearing's getting bad? And I think it's funny that we were talking about, like, is this some kind of like movie it's got this underlying meaning about dementia? And I feel like I had dementia by the end of it because I didn't understand anything that was happening. So maybe it's supposed to make me feel like I have dementia. But yeah, I don't know. It's I'm kind of torn because there's so many really beautiful shots in this. I mean, this is not like some of these indie films that we watch where it's not shot well or whatever. And, but sometimes your story can outshine the beautiful shots. And I think this story there's nothing there, or at least nothing there of substance to make me sort of like understand everything that's happening. So it basically sucks all the power out of what you can tell if you can't really do a story in a way that's so impactful for you to sort of like, okay, this is B, this is C, this is D, this is how this is playing out, as opposed to I have no idea what's happening. It felt like some of those art films that have no story to it,
Yeah, I mean,
visuals.
If you understand the conflict and you understand the characters and you understand the surroundings, or understand the lack of, or the lack of any of those, you can get past that as well. You can have a threadbare, story if you give a shit, right? If you care, you're going to be invested, and that's a big part of it too. But we should we're talking a lot about this film. We should wrap things up and give our final thoughts, our score 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. But before we do, if you're listening first, we want to thank you so much for listening to us babble on about movies. If you like what we're doing, 2 things you can do that are easy and free. You can hit the subscribe button down below, and you can share with a friend. Those 2 little things will go a long way. If you want to take it a little step further, you can hit the like button. You can hit the bell to be reminded about further things. And you can also leave some comments. If you've seen this movie if you rented it, or if you saw it at an online festival, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Let us know what we missed. I would love to hear what your interpretation of this film is. We also want to take just a moment to thank our patrons. over at
Yay.
Patreon, who's without their help, we would not be able to do this podcast, H&R, along with Decades of Horror, Heroes and Droids, which we do the sci-fi stuff there, and of course, Gruesome Magazine. All those are just about a podcast every weekday. So right here where you're listening or watching this right now. So check them out, and thank you guys for stepping in and help us do this. That is really wonderful that you're doing it. All right, let's do it. Final thoughts, score, and favorite scene. Vanessa, you're first.
Well, prior to recording, we were talking about the director Jordan Graham being very ambitious and taking on so many roles, and that is a good thing, to be that ambitious and to say I'm going to make a movie and do it and put it out there, and that's cool. But sometimes that also shows the necessity for collaboration. And I think maybe that was lacking a little bit. And we don't know the circumstances. Maybe he had to do this on his own to get this movie out there. And I commend him for that. And hopefully in the future, he'll be able to, get some different eyes on it so that some of these things we've discussed can maybe be brought up in a way that can be worked into his future movies. I just, such a conflicting movie. There's some really great scenes. We were talking about favorite scenes earlier and I was having trouble kind of recalling it, but I recalled a good one. Yes. And I'd like to say that it's spoilery. So can we go into spoilers? Okay, spoilers, guys. So we already said everything I think we're going to say about the movie. So in my final thoughts, I want to talk a little bit about this final scene. And it is where brother kills brother. And I'd totally forgotten about it. And it was brutal. And it was, and when he like slits his throat and is stabbing him and then shoves his head in the fire and he's just screaming and he's just holding his head in there. That was really hard to watch, but in a good way, if that makes sense. That was really well executed to me because it made me feel extraordinarily uncomfortable. And it was a moment where action was actually happening in this. And it really made you feel like, okay, what's happening now? Where's this going? This guy finally cracked. Like, okay, what's next? And then we find out he just turns into like a bald Mormon, and that's really disappointing. So that's why I feel conflicted about this movie. You get some that was a crazy scene. That brother killing, that was a crazy scene. But then I just don't understand so much of the other context of the movie. So on that note, I have to give it a 2.
2.
Yeah.
All right. Christopher G. Moore, you are up next. Your final thoughts, your score, and your favorite scene.
Well, to focus on the positive, it has some really great cinematography. Like I said before, I think it's really shot really well. Some of the scenes are well framed, and it has its level of creepy moments. Whether it's the look of these sort of like creatures in the woods, or there's also one thing we didn't point out. There's also this creepy thing where you get to see people like being all evil floaty in the background and stuff. And I think that adds a level of creepiness where you're just not seeing at full level of people like, but I mean, it's again, that feels something from like The Witch as well. Or Hereditary. But yeah, I think it's, I think it's a film that it aspires to look good, but the focus is less on telling the story. And I think that kind of like takes away all the pretty beautiful shots you can create, because if you can't tell a good story, it doesn't matter how many really beautiful shots you have, and a lot of times I can be more style over substance, but I think the confusing level of this storytelling in this is so it's so confusing that it's just it's hard to follow, and then it's like, and then it just makes those repetitive scenes much more repetitive and kind of boring. So I think for me, it's just kind of sad to see the potential of the story that could have been told here if there'd been a better way of giving background information as to why these characters doing this, why this main character is like not so talky, and you know, if there is some kind of level of mental illness, or if it's just them giving in to the family curse of being part of these woodland creatures or whatever.
Woodland rednecks. I don't know.
Woodland rednecks. I don't know what to call them. It's not like I don't even understand what their real powers are.
Power of flight.
It's you know, instead of deadites, redneckites. I don't know. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on here. I mean, so I think you can put all the preparation, you know, into play when it comes to creating beautiful shots, but there needs to be some more time to put into the storytelling, and changing up the aspect ratio in the middle of it doesn't really help either. Just shows how artsy you can be. So yeah, I think there's a lot that could be. I don't know. I'm still confused as to what happened to this film. So I'm just gonna stop talking. It's beautiful, but there's no real stuff.
What's your beautiful favorite scene? I want to know.
Well, my favorite scene, which again I don't understand what their powers are. But and it doesn't even make sense because there's a scene where a woman's tied to a tree. I don't even know who this character is. I don't think she was a character in the movie.
She might have been, like, yeah, but
I don't know. I don't think she's a character. I think she's just some random person. So then I'm like, okay, why is this random person tied to a tree? And then like she runs off, and then she like mysteriously gets pulled up into the sky. So I don't know if these are like redneck bat people. I don't know what's going on, but it's a cool scene because it's him like running with the flashlight. So it's very like Blair Witch or any of those sort of like found footage type movies. And all of a sudden you see her pulled in the sky and you're like, whoa, what the heck happened there? So those type of moments, I think, really show the effectiveness of it, but it doesn't make up for that I'm still more confused.
What's the context of that happening?
I don't know. And I was like, I thought they're just creepy people walking around in like deer coats,
deer robes,
yes. And all of a sudden they're like Superman. I don't know what's going on here.
It could have been a metaphor that was his wife, and she was tied down, and she had to run to the woods and escape.
I don't know.
She was trying to escape from the movie. She was very confused as to what was going on.
All
anyway,
right.
I'll give the movie a 2 as well.
Okay.
I only give it a 2 because the beautiful nature of the cinematography. I think the guy who did like 19 million jobs on this film, if you watch it through the end credits, he literally has 19 things he did.
19. You counted them? 19.
Let me slow clap for you. Okay, I'm a filmmaker. I've done all kinds of jobs. I'm not going to rub it in people's faces at the very end credits. But anyway, I think cinematography is the strong point.
Yeah, I think that's going to rub people that are in the business a little bit more differently than people that are just kind of watching it.
Probably not.
Yeah. I can't argue with you guys. This film is visually interesting. I mean, there's things happening in here that look great. Like we said, the sound. I actually couldn't get it to work on my TV, so I had to watch on the computer with the headphones. And the sound is actually well balanced and really draws you in. If you could have seen this in the theater, the atmosphere, the audible atmosphere would have been really remarkable as well. And I imagine that's where this movie plays best, is like in the theater at a film festival, with the crowd that is hungry for this kind of film. It would really register, I think, with a group of people. For me, though, I had trouble getting invested. I really didn't understand the story, and I'm jumping to conclusions. some of those conclusions might be correct. But I may be way off base, and I don't know. And that's kind of part of the problem. It just didn't fill those blanks in, and as a result, it was a bit of a labor to watch. It was a little boring, a little slow. I never got into the main character. I never fully understood the family. I wasn't fully aware of which character was which. I finally figured out the brothers after a while. There's a couple females in here, but I'm not sure who they are. I know that there was a mom, but we never really had.
There was a mom, yeah.
But we never have enough interaction with her to understand, is that mom seen again? Did we see that mom again? I feel like we were supposed to have.
I don't know.
But I don't know. But if it is, I didn't see it. So because there are other faces that show up. Right?
Maybe she was the one tied to the tree.
But if she was, we wouldn't know.
I don't think that was her.
No, it wasn't her. It wasn't her because it's
okay.
blonde.
I thought it was a different lady, but I could be wrong.
But so like the one lady at the house, where I'm a little confused about, because we see pictures of the two brothers with a sister when they're little, right? And we know that our main character was married, but I never caught.
Was he married? I don't know.
Yeah, I caught that he was married, but I never found out if it was his wife or his sister. And sometimes it felt like one, sometimes it felt like the other. Maybe there was both, and I didn't see them. But maybe that's part of it, right? Maybe that's the thing, is that disassociation, right, with faces and things and people. And
I think you have to know where you're starting from first.
Well, that's true. But the grandmother, because having the grandmother be so at the center of everything, and that's the big problem. And then because of that, she has this trait that she shared with her daughter, who has gone missing, which is the two brothers' mother. It just feels like there's a lineage there that they're trying to get. But again, I feel like I don't have enough clues to really make these pieces fit together in a way that I can feel confident in saying that's what it is. So it really sucks any satisfaction out of it. You feel like you haven't, you don't feel full. You don't feel fulfilled. You don't feel like you got everything. And it's unfortunate because the film is really well shot and beautiful to look at. And it does carry that sense of dread. And there are some visuals that are striking. And like the one that Vanessa brought up is actually quite horrifying. And then there's other things that are just absolutely creepy. But it's not consistent. So I like this just a hair more than you two, a 2.25. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to show you guys that, but I did.
You're not showing us. I'm not offended by that.
Not offended at all. All right. Good. But my favorite scene is there's a cave scene eventually that our character finds a cave. It's really, really interesting because there's this waterfall stuff and he's going in and then it goes into a cave and he really uses the skull imagery to great effect. And there's one with that instead of antlers, it has more rammy kind of horns, right? Mm-hmm. Do I remember that right? Or
yeah, that's the one with the little jawbone.
Yes.
And cool design.
That scene was really haunting, and I really liked the visual part of that. I mean, just the composition of it and everything. I really
with the two waterfalls.
Yeah, there was a lot going on.
I was like things like that. I'm like the production value on that. I think looks gorgeous. That kind of stuff is like wow.
Yeah. Reminiscent of Baphomet too, the way they're sitting with the light, the light coming on them in the dark. Mm-hmm. So the imagery is there, but we're like we see that awesome image that was your favorite scene, and then and then give us more.
Yeah, there is that. So that's the 2.25. All right. So there you go. There's our review for Sator. I hope we've enticed you enough to go and check it out and see what the hell is going on with this movie and tell us, hey, you guys just didn't catch it.
Well, yeah, go watch it and tell us what we missed.
I mean,
Please.
Give us, maybe you'll have a better understanding of it than we did, which is cool. I mean,
and it's not like I can't do that because I watch a shit ton movies a year. I watch at least 3 movies a week. I watch, hundreds of movies a year, for the site here. And I've seen all sorts, from, just straight up crazy horror comedies to, these types of films. And some register and some don't. And, I don't know. But it's this one slipped past me. Whatever its message was, I didn't get it. So. Wow. All right, there's our review for Sator. Thank you all so much. Christopher, Vanessa, thank you for joining me. Like I said, this was going to be a fun discussion, and I do believe it was.
yes, it was.
Yeah.
All right, let's say goodnight.
Good night.
Good night.